Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking. I'm here to do yet another video for you, and this is for Neo-Morphosis Infestation. Now, this is a cooperative game for 1 to 4 people. Depending upon the scenario you play, it's going to last you about 60 to 90 minutes. And it is a classic miniatures on a map game. So, I mean, and this is from the same people that made Vampire Hunters and also Dark Rituals. So, you know they make fantastic miniatures. I mean, you can get a better look at these actually probably if you go to their website or go to the Kickstarter page. But these are fantastic. I mean, I'm going to talk about the game here in just a little bit, but I mean, first of all, these are like the prototypes that I was sent. So right off the bat, it's like you guys knocked it out of the park with just your prototype miniatures. But also, I mean, I can see myself using these for all kinds of different things. Like if I have, like I play a lot of Stars Without Number, which is like kind of an old school revival space game. Like I could use these for the aliens. I could use the heroes for the heroes in that game. Also, I totally could see myself using these cool alien figures. For Call of Cthulhu, or for for aberrations or crazy monsters in my Dungeons and Dragons games. So, fantastic job with these. But if you have their other games, you know what to expect from them. So they did a really good job. I don't know, hiccups, great, huh? Anyway, this is a game, as I said, it's a cooperative game. The theme of it is miniatures on a map type of game. Each scenario will be a different creation or different world that you're creating. Basically, you are the employees that are coming to this like star base, basically, but or like planet base or what have you. And you get there. You are not rough and tumble Marines or anything like that. You are the replacement like new employees to take over for the other people that have been working there a long time. But you get there, you land, you get in the place, and you realize that this place has been infested with these, insect-like aliens that don't seem to have any rhyme or reason to what they're doing. They're just ripping the place apart, and they've killed everybody else that you're coming there to replace. So now all of a sudden you have these people that, like, the outside planet is hostile. They can't go and hide there. They've got to figure out what's going on, take care of those monsters, and get things satisfied. And there's something I really liked about this, and I'm going to touch on it real briefly here, and I'll touch on it more in the final. There are lots of games like this where you are the de facto heroes, right? I mean, you've got your bolt rifles and your laser guns and your power armor and what have you, but not these guys and these gals and guys. They're like scientists, or they're going to be the janitor or whatever, and they are not here to they're not expecting big giant fisticuff fights. And so I liked that theme. I liked that a lot, that it was just kind of like average Joes and Jills being thrown into a problem, and they've got to figure out a way to keep themselves alive and also save the base while they're at it. So anyway, I'm gonna kind of just show you the game, give you an overview of the rules, and after we get done with that, we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. This is Neo-Morphosis Infestation, and I am going to show you how the game is played kind of in little chunks, just so you can get an idea of how the game progresses and kind of like the tension and the feeling of the game as it goes. Also, I really want to highlight some of these miniatures. These are, I mean, I've seen games by this publisher before. They do fantastic work. These are, like, I believe, like 3D printed. They aren't even like going to be like the final look or whatever, as far as, like, I mean, I'm sure they'll even be better once they're made. So these are fantastic and just look absolutely amazing. As I said, this is a game where you're going to have different scenarios. where you're going to set up the map, and then you're going to go through the process. Now, this is a prototype I was sent. Obviously, the miniatures look really nice, but as far as like, you know, the quality of, like, this is just like a piece of paper that has this like little board, which you'll be using a lot, mind you. I'll get to that in a second here. But so just keep that in mind as you watch this. So as you can see, this is kind of like there's these doors that are located in these different locations. The colors actually mean something. I'll explain that in just a little bit. There are lots of these little discs. In the case of these discs, these green ones, those are terminals. These yellow ones here, those are supply chests that if your character is in those places, they're able to open them and get equipment. I'll talk about a lot of this stuff more. Because this scenario is like kind of like the beginning scenario, your workers have just landed. They have no idea what's in store for them. They have no idea that, well, you know, but I mean, they don't know. In the storyline, they have no idea that this place has been overrun by these insectoid aliens. They're going to come in here and they're going to notice that this place is completely trashed, and they need to try to save it and also save their lives in the process. In this particular scenario, the big thing is to defeat it, you have to basically get to here, and you have to clean out this area. Once they get to this location, pretty much the entire thing is going to be filled with alien eggs. And those alien eggs are going to hatch. They're going to be turned into these awesome big giant monsters that are going to try to rip them apart. And what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to open up like this door that leads to the outside. And you can only do that from here. There's like you'll get a passcode in this location. And once you have that, you're able to open up this door and you're able to let them out. Now, the big thing is that this door has been locked. That's why it is blue compared to the other ones that are gray. In this particular scenario, you eventually, after you get in, you have to have, these are two different stations where basically both people have to be in those two spots where they're going to activate that spot, and that will take the lock off the door, and then it can be opened like any other door. Now, on characters' turns, basically what you'll do is you'll take 3 actions. And since this is a cooperative game, depending upon, and I'm just placing these guys in here, I'm not like creating or like revealing the aliens or anything as we go here. But on your turn, when you take 3 actions, you will just move. Like moving from spot to spot is an action. Opening a door, you know. So if you decide to open this door, I just lay them down like that. You open up that door, and then it is open. You can go through. You can also close doors as well. Important to note that the aliens don't have the ability, they don't understand how doors work. They understand that doors can be opened, and they will attack doors and destroy them. If you happen to destroy a door, it gets jammed. And so for me, what I did is I put a little marker on that to show that it has been destroyed. Players can still repair that and get it back into working order, but that's a way to check that. They can also destroy terminals. Terminals are really important. You can put if they destroy a terminal, you're just going to go ahead and, like, in this case, what I did is I put a little marker on there like that. All right. Now, that's just kind of like a really brief overview. Let me just also, before I step forward into the nuts and bolts and mechanisms of the game, I want to draw your attention to this board up here. So this is like basically the terminals. So like when you look at this is the same as having a terminal. Like when your character's at an terminal, like you can just basically envision they're standing in front of this terminal and they're going to be using it. And there's lots of different things you can do with the terminal, but also this terminal is going to keep track of the emergencies that happen as the game progresses, and then also you're going to attempt to solve those problems and basically de-escalate those emergencies. The big thing is that if you stop de-escalating emergencies, and I'll show you those emergency cards here in just a little bit. If you stop de-escalating those emergencies, you're going to eventually get these big giant warnings that are going to appear. And since there's these little tracker marks on the side here for emergencies, and those, for every round that goes by that you do not solve those emergencies as they appear, they are going to increase in difficulty and increase in basically talking about bringing about the end. So this is like an emergency card. I'll talk more about this a little bit, but one of the big ways that you'll lose, basically there's 2 ways that you lose, is that if you were ever going to, because if you ever can't like stop an emergency, let me just actually just take these off real quick here, and let's just go here, and let's say like you don't solve this emergency and it goes 3 rounds, this basically becomes broken. You can't ever get that spot back, and then you're going to draw another emergency and place that down there. There are also other ways that emergencies can appear. They can, like if, since the aliens will like rip apart the walls and things like that, when they rip apart the walls, that'll create another emergency. So it is very possible for you to have more than one ongoing emergency at any time. But the big thing is that if you were ever in a situation where you were supposed to draw another emergency and place it onto the board and you didn't have any spots left over for those, then you'd lose the game. The other way you can lose the game is, this is a game that has combat and is going to have situations where the your heroes, or your workers basically, they're going to be possibly knocked unconscious or in recovery. You can't be killed in the game. If you take enough damage that would take your health down to 0, you get knocked over, and then then basically one round will go by and then you'll be in recovery, and then another round will go by and you're able to stand up and you can be activated as normal. Now that doesn't mean that isn't debilitating. If you basically lose a character, I mean those are actions that you are losing for way too long of a time if that occurs. So not a good thing at all if you get knocked out. I should mention there's this big giant like red button here. What that does is that it is like kind of a oh crap button. What it does is that you get to pick a sector in the board where if you hit that, you're able to basically inject, it's meant as a fire suppression system. So what it does is it removes all the air from a sector on the board, and then it'll kill all the aliens that are in that sector. Now in this case, because you have to get to these 2 spots here, you can't use that button for either of these 2 locations. But if you ever run into a situation, and these are going to be different for each of the scenarios, so just keep that in mind. But in this case, if you ever have a situation where you have a ton of aliens on a spot like this, and they're ripping everything apart, and you're not, even if your character's in there, somebody could hit the oh crap button if they're at a terminal, and they do that. You would kill the aliens that are in the location, but you would also knock your you would kick one of your kick the player in that spot like down, and so then they would be out of commission for a little while. It won't kill them, but it's one of those things. Now this, like once you use it, you've used up the power, but usually in the scenarios there's another spot where you can grab one of these, you can pick that up, you can take it to a terminal, and you can reload it into the terminal location so you can use it again. There are going to be this is one of those games that when you first get the rule book, you're like, oh my gosh, this rule book's got a lot going on. But once you start reading it, you really start realizing that it's all common sense stuff, right? It's like, oh, it makes sense that I should be going from here to here. It makes sense that if I fix this particular item, then I can do this. So there's things like that that really, I think the designers really spend a lot of time stressing on the theme of the game, and also having fun with that theme, because this isn't your standard these are the space marines coming in to fight and deal with the aliens. This is a situation where the unlucky would-be heroes are facing an untenable situation, which I think is kind of cool, and it's like a spin on the common theme that we usually run into those. All right, so let me talk a little bit about, once you start off, and I kind of move things around, but once you enter a room, one of the things that'll happen is that you'll turn over one of these cards that will just tell you what types of things to put into that, as far as the spawning of the monsters in that room. Now, in each one of these rooms, and it's tough to see it, but they're on it'll have numbers on the bottom, so here's 3 to 4, here's a 2, and here's a 1. Those will tell you, then there's the corresponding numbers on these cards that say on a 1 and 2 you put an egg. So I have these to represent the eggs. So when you enter that room, you'd just put those on there like so. And then you have like it says you put a ripper on one, so you're going to take one of these rippers, these kind of evil, like multi-tentacled rip you apart. Oh, that's a slug. I grabbed the wrong one. That's a slug. So a ripper. There we go. That's a ripper. Grab the wrong guy. So we're going to do that. So we put the ripper there, and then we're going to grab a slug and put that on number 3, like so. All right, so then we'll have those locations, crafted out, and we'll know what are in those spots. And those are placed randomly at the beginning of each round. So, that happens when you enter the room. However, there are ways, actually, to look inside of a room without actually having to go into the room and risk being ripped apart by an alien. Now, if you're wondering how combat works or anything like that, I'm going to show you that like in more of a highlighted thing here. I'm going to show you a highlighted combat here in just a little bit. So just bear with me. But first, now what I want to do is actually I want to take some time and highlight this board right here and show you how this works. Alright, so this is a close-up of that panel. I just want to point out a few things to you. So I already talked about the halon interjector there that's used to basically kill all the aliens in one location. But there is a time track that goes down over here, and obviously these are where the emergency spots show up. There is also this little panel here that tells you different things that you can do. And these are actions that your players can use if they're in the spot where one of these are. And they have such things as you can, there is a drone that the players use. And you can set that up to go on. You can actually set that to self-destruct and blow up and do a bunch of damage to everything in the room that's in there. You can also use just the remote control drone to do different things, like go and open doors or try to fix things or what have you. I'll talk more about the drone here in a little bit. You can use the cameras to basically look at the different rooms to be able to see the aliens in that room before you step in. You can also release the halon, as we've talked about. We also use electronic feedback that will be used to actually do damage to aliens by using the system that you have. So each character, and the game comes with these 4 characters. I assume they maybe will have more once the game is published or as stretch goals, or I don't know for sure. But each one of these will have a certain pool of dice that they'll be allowed to use to solve problems, and that's this location here. So this character has 3. In those locations, what you'll do if you want to activate a spot, you'll take your dice, you'll roll them. As long as you can match up to activate that spot, you would then go ahead and be able to take that action. If you fail, you can always try again, but remember, you only get 3 actions per turn. Now, this is also the spot where we're going to be having our different emergencies. So this particular emergency tells us that it is in Sector 4, and then it has the symbols again that you're seeing over here that you're going to be rolling dice to try to match to solve that particular problem. Now, there's a couple of things that are special with this. First of all, you are going to set a marker on the emergencies, and then for every round that this emergency exists without it being solved, you will move that marker down. If it ever reaches the 3rd thing and does not get solved, you will take that emergency, you'll get rid of it, and you will replace it with this, meaning that basically it can't ever be fixed. Now, there's a couple things. Obviously, that's bad because that can signal the end of the game if you get too many of those, but also because this actually destroys the cameras, because it's cameras are offline. You're going to go ahead and place that over the camera. You examine the rooms action. So now all of a sudden, you're unable to do that action anymore until this gets fixed. And if it actually does get destroyed, then you'll never get to do that again. If you do go to a panel and try to fix that, because you will then, and you match up any of your rolls, you will place those over those locations. But each player can only try once to fix each problem. So you can't just have one person sitting at one panel and just trying over and over and over again to get to the results you needed. Basically, even though You know, this guy is kind of like Robert is more or less like kind of your miner guy, your technician. You know, he isn't your most scientifically adroit person. And like if you look over here, you have Yuri, who is he gets 4 dice in his pool, and there's ways to, you know, as opposed to the 3 that Robert gets. There are ways to get equipment and other things that will increase those particular that particular dice pool, and there is equipment that you can get that will actually allow you to like just basically change the dice as well with some dice mitigation, but remember, if you ever get all 4 of these filled and the game tells you to do another emergency, whether it's aliens ripping apart the walls and causing more damage, or the fact that you aren't able to contain certain emergencies and things like that, if you're ever forced to draw another one of these and you already have that particular this part of your panel full, you will immediately lose the game. One last thing, it does actually post, and I do like it when games do this, just like if you have, like, it's really cool, like this thematically, the art of this looks really cool. And it looks interactive, right? Like the big red "oh crap" button to release the Halon. But they also just can have some spot to like have some information. And there's some information right here. And this represents the different panels. And notice how like the panel actually looks like the panel. So this is those panels. These are doors, and this is like the structure, the walls of the facility. And it actually tells you the strengths of those. And so if you have an alien attacking those, that's like the number they have to defeat, the target number, if you will, to be able to destroy that particular part of the facility. All right, so let me talk now a little bit about the aliens. Before I dive into the aliens that you see before you, I wanted to talk about the drone, and I want to mention him real quickly. So drones are cool. Basically, you can activate them and get them to do what you want. 2 things are really good. They are really good at repairing stuff. Way better than the other players. Also, you can kind of throw a drone into a room and you don't really have to worry about him because of the fact that, like, basically the aliens ignore him and they don't really care. Also, he's fast, whereas when other players, when they activate and move, they move 1, you'll see that he has a movement of 3. So like if you activate him and move him someplace, he gets where he's going very, very quickly. So if you can accurately activate a drone and do it well, you can really get them to do something. And plus, like I said, you can blow him up and you can affect the things around him with a big giant damaging explosion. Obviously it's a one-time thing, you don't get another drone, but drones are cool. All right, so here's the alien. So you start off with alien. You start off with like alien pods or alien eggs, basically, and then they divert. And cards are there's a die you roll that will actually tell you like which route they go. They're either going to go to a larva hydra, which eventually becomes a slug, or you go to a larva worm, which becomes a ripper. And each one of these has its own like stats and abilities. Obviously, your eggs don't really do much. They just sit there, and if you run into eggs, it is in your character's best interest to smash them and destroy them before they're allowed to grow and become something different. So the big thing about these is that all of these have like stats that just correspond with different things. Like the larva worm, it has a health of 1, it has a defense of 7, meaning that's the number you have to beat if you're trying to roll to defeat them. They get a bonus of 1 to their attacks, and so on and so forth. Then they have what's called like an escapability or an agility roll. If your players are next to aliens, if they want to move away from them, aliens have the ability to like hold them into place and not allow them to escape and get away. And you have to be able to beat that roll once again. And this runs on a target number system. Target numbers have become kind of ubiquitous for these types of games and for lots of other role-playing games and things like that. So I do like that. I think people enjoy the idea of, you know, what's my target number? Oh, it's an 8. Okay, I have a +4. And then they roll a die. I got a 5. I got +4. 9. I met or exceeded that number, so now I have succeeded. So, like, and also on the bottom right of each one of these cards, they have a special ability that says if 2 or more slugs are in the same area, their impede value, that's that number that you have to roll to defeat, increases by 1. They also have like a the bottom one is the amount of damage they do if they successfully attack and hit one of the players. So the only other thing I wanted to show you is that during a turn, you will have, after the players go, you will activate the aliens, and they will act. Now, here's something that I actually thought was really cool. One of the really cool things is, like, when you go into a room, you activate and you see what's in that room, right? You see all the aliens that are in that room. You can use the ability to look into rooms to see what's in there, but then those aliens are then activated. So so it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? You're able to see what you're dealing with without actually having to contend with it, but you are forcing yourself into a situation where those then aliens are going to activate when you turn these cards over. So when you turn the cards over, they're going to tell you, like, what aliens are like as far as attacking a structure, and then it tells you, like, larva. It says all larvae move up to one area and attack crew. Then all larvae move up to two areas towards the closest door. So if there's a person within one area of them, they will attack. Otherwise, they'll go into the closest door. Rippers. All rippers move up to two areas to attack crew. Attack closed doors en route. So they will actually try to break down doors to get to them. And then slugs. All slugs move up to two areas to attack crew. Attack closed doors en route. And so in these, there's a big stack of these, so you never know how things are going to act. So, like, here's one that says rippers. One ripper moves up to two areas to attack a closed door. Then all rippers move up to two areas to attack crew. Stop at closed doors en route. So they won't necessarily, like, break down doors. So you never know exactly what to expect, and that's kind of a nice, neat tension moment when you're turning cards over and when you're like, oh my gosh, are they going to move? Are they going to move? Are they going to move to attack? Those sorts of things. And it's kind of a fun little moment. One last thing before we move on. Aliens can actually become better as the game progresses. So you're going to have situations where like they will mutate and what have you, and you're going to have these like cards that you'll put in here, and then you'll actually add to those particular abilities. So like if this slug got this mutation, it would gain +1 health and do +2 damage, making this thing just a total tank with taking 3 hits to kill it, and it does 6 damage each time it hits. So another way that the game kind of stays fresh and will keep you on your toes, because you can't just expect every single slug or larva or whatever to work the exact same way. All right, so let's actually show you like how combat works. It's pretty straightforward, but I just wanted to show you like a quick round and show you how that goes, and also show you like some of the equipment and some of the things that your characters are going to be able to do. All right, I have a totally made up situation here that probably might not ever happen in a game, but I just wanted to kind of show you the different things that go on when you do an attack. So remember, these are not like Space Marines, as I said. They are not equipped to deal with this. So they basically have the equipment that they came into the building with, that they're just trying to fashion into weapons, trying to use them in some way to allow them to combat these aliens. I mean, the big thing is mostly this isn't a thing where you're going to be going room to room and mopping up these horrible things. You are basically trying to carve a path and trying to just meet the mission objective, so then you can go on to the next scenario. But anyway, so basically we have Yuri and we have Carolyn, and they are in this room with 3 different aliens. They have a Ripper, a larva worm, and a slug. So Carolyn, I'll just do hers first. She, like, her standard weapon, I'll show you how we upgrade and get things here in a little bit, but her standard weapon here is like just basically fighting hand to hand, and it'll do 1 point of damage, you see there, and it is +4, and you can see it is melee because it has a range of 0. It can't be used to attack anything like more than 1 space away. Yuri, on the other hand, his weapon has 0 to 1, so he can attack something that's 1 spot away, which we'll show right there. So if Carolyn attacks and she has a +4, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the things she is fighting. Right now she is fighting a larva worm, and that has a defense of 7. So we just have to basically roll a 3 or higher. We're going to add our +4 here, see what we get. Okay, I rolled a 5, so she would hit. We would do our 1 point of damage. We see the larva worm has 1 hit point, and you'd remove that. like I said, if you play games like this is going to be pretty straightforward. In this situation, since he didn't want to really get close to the slug, so he's going to attack with his weapon. The defense for the slug is 8, and he has a +4 as well, so I have to roll a 4 or higher. Let's see what we do here. I rolled a 4. Excellent. So I did hit. However, my weapon only does 1 point of damage, so I have to represent that by basically putting a point of damage that is next to that particular slug. If it takes another point of damage, it will be removed from the game. You know, it's one of those things where hopefully you can get some better weapons and you'll have different options. Now you may be saying, well, how do I get better weapons? Well, remember I told you about those chests and they're located in different spots? When you open a chest, you will get items, but however, the items themselves won't be like basically a usable thing just yet. So you have like, you know, here we have a thing that just says purple pills. Like that's an item that you can get. Then you have things like, here you have, you know, it says max shield, but it doesn't have anything on it. Here you have like a nail gun, but it's the parts of a nail gun. It hasn't been constructed yet. So if you look at these, what it says here is that it actually has like a tech number, and this is the target number of 6. And what your character has to be, and like let's just go ahead and put Yuri over into this spot where they have a tech location where he can craft things. With that target number of 6, we would look at his tech ability, which is only a +2, so I'd have to roll a 4 or better. Let's see if my luck still holds out. Nope, I would fail. But let's just cheat and say I rolled a 5. And so then what you can do is you can turn the card over, and now it becomes a nail gun, which has a range of 1, gives a +5 hit, and more importantly, it does 2 points of damage. So if Yuri had this weapon, and he had that equipped, when he shot the slug, he would have done 2 points of damage and taken him off the board with that attack. Now, other things that like would heal players and stuff like that, as you might guess, are probably like, you know, this stim pack, where it's just like on this side, it has nothing, but it is a science thing. So he has that beaker of science up there and has target number 6. If you succeed in that, you would get the stim pack that would be able to heal 5 points of health. Obviously, if your characters take damage, you will just, you know, add the damage to them with cubes, and they would have that. But like, so let's just put her over here. Let's say she had the stim pack parts, and characters are able on their turn as an action to trade items back and forth. They can also drop items so other players can pick them up. But if we're over there, she's in a medical spot. We look at Carolyn. She has a +5 on meds, and this in the stim pack needs a 6. So boom, it's automatic. She's smart. She's amazing. She crushed that roll with a 5. She would then be able to create this stim pack and put it down there, and she'd have that. Combat, like if this activates and like would move to attack, combat works the exact same way. In this case, this is a Ripper, and if you look at this one, it has a +2 to attack, and we look at Yuri's defense is a 3. Not good news for Yuri, since I don't think I can roll a 0 on this die. I rolled a 2. That would be enough damage, enough to hit him, and it would do the damage. So Yuri would take 3 points of damage, and he is not happy that that thing moved into his spot and began ripping him apart. If you wanted to move out of that spot, let's say he says, I can't fight this guy, I'm not good enough, I'm going to die. He wants to escape. Remember, like he has a +4 to his agility, and the Ripper has an 8 for its impede value. So if I wanted to move out of that spot on my turn, I'd have to roll a 4 or better. I did. So then I would be allowed to move away. And that's how those impede abilities work. Again, it's a target number system. It's something, it's fast, it's intuitive, and it plays really, really well. So there you go. That should give you a really good idea of how to play the game. And if you if you have any questions about anything, definitely ask away on this video. But let me dive into my final thoughts about Neo-Morphosis Genesis. Alright, I know I said I was going to tell you my final thoughts on the game, and I totally am, but I have to tell you about this aspect of the game before we move forward, because this is a pretty important part of the game, and this has to do with a lot of the strategy and planning that the players will be making for each and every turn of the game. So these are these Xenobiology research tiles, and these will be used by the players to give themselves a leg up depending upon the situation they envision that they're going to have, whether they think they're going to get attacked a lot, whether they think they're going to be fighting a lot, things like that. And you're going to have to take these 4 tiles and you're going to have to put them together so the tiles match, like the symbols match on each side. And you're going to have to do that for each one of the tiles so each one of them match. So if I went like that and like that and like that, that wouldn't do any good. Even though I am matching here, I'm matching there, I'm matching there, but here we are matching up. So that would not be a valid way to put these together. I would have to go ahead and like do something like that, because then all of those different aspects would glue together. Now, what does that mean when you succeed in that? Well, each one of these tiles, you can see, has these symbols, and these symbols are for attack and these symbols are for defense. So if you look at this where you have this symbol and that symbol, they match up. Now I can look at these bonuses and you can see there's a +1 to attack and a +1 to attack right there, meaning that means we're going to get a +2 to attack. However, if you look right here, where you can see this is an attack symbol and this is a defense symbol, those two symbols don't match up. They aren't two defense symbols. So unfortunately, we're not going to get any bonus from that whatsoever. And finally over here, once again, we have an attack and we have a +0 to attack and a +1 to attack, which the +0 isn't helping a lot. But those two symbols match up. They're both attack symbols, and these two symbols match up. They're both that kind of green cluster, meaning that we're going to get an extra +1 to attack. So this particular turn of the game, we would get a +3. Now there's a cool thing I want to mention here, and this is very important, is that each one of these has this little symbol in the middle, and those symbols match up with the player characters. So this particular player matches up with that, and like for example this particular player matches up with this one. If a player gets knocked unconscious, you have to flip that tile over and you can see, boom, there's nothing there. You're unable to use that, and you can't actually do this part of the turn if any of the players are knocked out. This is one of those slippery slope situations where you really want to make sure you keep your adventurers, these poor hapless workers up and mobile as much as possible, because if you don't and you get knocked out, you can't do this preparation phase, which is a really, really important phase of the game. Now, of course, as I said, you can't really die in the game. You just get knocked out, and the next turn you come back up. So if you manage to keep everybody awake and the other player comes back, you're able to go right back into this xenobiology research phase and make sure you have the right strategy set up. So a really cool part of the game, a really cool thing, because all the players get to be involved and kind of come up with things and have a good conversation, and that's what these games are good about. These like cooperative games are, when everybody can work together and say, hey, we really need a lot of defense this turn, or we really need a lot of attack this turn, or we need a balanced attack defense turn. And when you're able to talk that out, come up with a way to put these together and then process that, it gets everybody involved and makes the game that much more fun. All right, now, totally serious, I'm going to give you my final thoughts on Neo-Morphosis. All right, thank you very much for taking the time to learn the basics of the game. Now, there's a lot more to the game than just what I've shown you. I do invite you to go ahead and check out the webpage, the Kickstarter page, and like download the rulebook for yourself. Also, you can go there, and they have some how-to-play videos, and I strongly suggest taking a look at those. You can, if you want to have a deeper dive into the mechanisms. I'll just say this, I mean, the game just works, and it works really well. One of the things why it works really well is that target number system. I think more, miniatures on a map games need just target number systems. I play Warhammer, I play Age of Sigmar, I already play games that have 1,000 different rules and roll 17 six-sided dice, check for this, check for that. Was this modifier there? Was that modifier there? And it's like, just like, if I'm going to go play a Warhammer game, I know what to expect before I get there, right? But in stuff like this, I mean, like these character sheets, it's just so perfect. It's very, very basic, very straightforward. Here's your 6 different stats, and that's it. That's all you have to worry about, right? Maybe you'll pick up an item that'll change it slightly and you'll get an extra die, or you'll add a bonus or something like that, but no. And then you just know, I need to roll a 3 or better because I have a +5, and I need to do that in this particular roll. And your brain figures it out quickly as far as what you need, what your die roll has to be, and it's boom, 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 done. And I don't have to go back and check a different rule. Did I have this? Did I have it? You know, I didn't touch on the line of sight rules, but the line of sight rules are just like blatantly easy in this game as well. I mean, it's just like, look, you know, it's like, here's how you can see things, and like, it isn't one of those things where it's like, you know, get the protractor out, you know, can I see, you know, no, it's just, and I think that, like, the designers of this game have kind of realized that when you streamline these games and just, you know, don't make it difficult for the players to get to the fun, then you can kind of start opening doors up with cool scenarios and cool things going on. Have a great deal of interest and great deal of fun. I love the scenarios. I love the fact that they also make sense. They make common sense. It's like, the scenario is, there's a door, you can't open it. That's like the first choke point of the decision. So you're going to enter. All of a sudden, you're fighting all these aliens. You're getting beat up. You know, things are breaking. You got to race through. Somehow you've got to get 2 people of 2 separate things on the same turn. They got to push the button to unlock that door, and now you can finally get through it. And then you get into the room behind it. It's going to have a ton of like spider eggs, like insectoid eggs in there, and they're going to pop open, and then you're going to have the battle of your life, basically, to try to make it to the point. And then the whole idea is that if you can pass this scenario, you've gotten to the point where now you can go to the next level and go on to the next one. And I like that. The scenario has specific points of interest, points of tactical interest that you need to get to and take over, and it flows very, very well. The other thing I really like about this, and those of you who've watched my channel for a long time, this really is a really good combination of miniatures on a map type game with tactical strategic combat. But also, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like a pandemic game. You have escalating issues and problems. It has this wonderful Euro aspect of like, here's your problem, you need to fix it, and like a really neat thing where it's like each player, like you have one player go there, roll the dice, and get 2 out of the 3 that they need, but then the next person has to go and roll their dice and see if they can get it, and so on and so forth. And you can't just sit there and retry, meaning that each person's going to have to take, usually for tougher things, or each person's going to have to take a stab at getting past that particular puzzle. And I like that. I like that. It also made it so like you just didn't jam the one person that's really, really good at certain tasks and just say, you have to do all this and do that. And there's no, I mean, even if they fail, there's no reason for you to try, you know, could you go beat up bugs or something? There's nothing for you here. We're going to have this person just keep, you know, hammering away at this. No, they've tried once. It's beyond their ability. You need somebody else to come in with a fresh new take on that decision and try to defeat it. And I like that. And that way, like, you aren't going to just have each person just doing the same old thing turn after turn after turn, because you know what, scientist lady who, you know, isn't really good at fighting tried to solve that problem. She's unable to do it. She's got to go and fight the bugs while, you know, like techie guy who maybe is better at beating up the bugs than she is, needs to go and take his stab at a terminal and see if he can fix it while she goes off and starts, you know, smashing up, you know, like insectoid aliens for a while and take over that role. And so like you have the players have to go outside of their core, you know, values, outside their core concepts, and like and their you know their what's what we're looking for here, like you basically their wheelhouse of their skills, and you know, it makes for a really good story. It makes for really good immersion. It makes for really good like once you get done with the game, win or lose, like you're gonna have those moments of memory of like really cool things that happened. And you know, it's just, the game is just, it's just fun. It's just flat out fun, and it doesn't take too long either. I think that like 60 to 90 minutes is a very, very honest game time, and it doesn't You don't end up in like one of those things where it's like, you're looking at your watch, it's 2.5 hours, maybe you're 2/3 of the way through the scenario, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't even care anymore. But that 60 to 90 minutes, just works perfectly. So there you go. All right. So if you have any questions about the game, as I said before, ask away. Happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. If you could go ahead and hit that like button or subscribe or whatever, that'd be cool too. And then just until next time, just be the best possible version of you as you possibly can be. Take care of yourself. I'll talk to you soon.